Now we're going to take a look at another one of the benefits of events. Since we're not just polling and updating every frame and we can actually tell when our health changed, we can do some cool little things with that, like give the player some extra indication, not just audio, but maybe something visual in our panel. I want to add a little flashing part to our panel that just kind of highlights that our health has changed and show you something else really cool along the way. So let's go find our player canvas and then our player panel, and then I'm going to expand out and find the hearts object. We have this image here that I didn't disable, and if I turn it on, you might see that little outline that appeared. But if I change the color to a nice bright like a red and then crank that alpha up like that so that the alpha is at 255 and it's not transparent at all, then it's very obvious. If I click that on and off, you can see it becomes very, very clear that there's a big giant red flashing thing there, and I definitely took some damage. So what I want to do now is make it so that when I take damage, this turns on for maybe half a second and then turns back off. So it's a little bit of a flash. We could of course do something cooler and flashier and fancier, but I think that something simple like this with the code is going to give you a lot of opportunity to just do whatever it is that comes to mind. So let's take a look at our player panel. And we're going to open up our player panel script and give ourselves a reference to that little hearts panel or this hearts image here. So let's go to the player panel. We'll open the player panel script, and right up at the top, let's duplicate line 11 and get rid of the array. And let's rename this, instead of being hearts, let's call this flash panel. Or let's call it flash image. Make it a little bit more obvious what it is. So it's not an array. There's only one image. We could have multiple. We just have to loop through all of them and turn them on and off. But I've just got this one here. So I'm going to copy it, scroll down into our update health part, and then on line 32, so after 31, we'll add a new line. I'm going to kick off something called a coroutine. And this is going to run code over multiple frames. It's going to allow me to run something now and then do something else in half a second, which turn the sprite on and then turn it back off. So we'll do that by calling the start coroutine method. We need an open parentheses. Then we need to give it the name of our method. I'm going to call this flash image. Well, let's call it flash UI. No, let's just call this flash. I think that's good enough. We'll add our open close parentheses and a semicolon, alt enter, and generate a method for it. The return type of this doesn't want to be string. It says string by default, and it's going to generate that, but we need to change this to an IEnumerator. It's important that you don't get the IEnumerable, which is another one that's easy to autocomplete. You want IEnumerator. That's what a coroutine must return. We'll remove the private keyword because we don't need it. And then if I get rid of this throw, we'll suddenly get an error saying that flash does not return a value because it needs to return an IEnumerator. And it does it in a very weird way. I'll show you the syntax. We'll talk a lot more about coroutines as we go on, but you'll get familiar with it really quick. The first thing that we want to do is update our health image. So flash image dot enabled equals true. I said update, I meant enable our flash image. So I pasted in my flash image that was already on my clipboard, did dot enabled equals true. Now we want to wait for half a second. And to wait in a coroutine, we do a yield. So we do YIELD, return, and here we need a wait for seconds. So we have to do a new wait for seconds, and then open parentheses, and we want to give it the number of seconds or the amount of time. If I do 0.5, that'll be half a second, and I can add a semicolon. But it's going to give me an error because it only takes a float, and 0.5 is a double. It's a really weird kind of thing. If you're not familiar with game math, and all this stuff, it's essentially an optimization to make things much, much faster. It uses these floating point numbers to go faster, and it gets a little bit confused on the type. So if we put an F here, it'll know, hey, this is a floating point number. It's fine. Go ahead and use that and don't give me the error. So that'll fix the error. The last thing we want to do is turn the flash image off. So I'll copy line 27, paste it down here on 39, and put in a false. Now, it's worth noting that you can save off and cache this wait for seconds object. It's something that you can reuse multiple times. It's another optimization. I'm not going to dive into that, though, because it's not something that we need to worry about yet. And right now, we're focusing on the coroutines and the way they work. So we kick off the coroutine after we update health. Our health UI updates. The correct number of health is there. we start this coroutine flash, which on the first frame, right when we call it, is going to enable this image. Then it's going to say, hey, now I'm supposed to wait half a second. The game is going to keep running, and then half a second later, it'll resume on and run the next code and end it. If we call this in between, so if we take damage and then we take damage again before this has happened, it's just going to restart and go back up to the top, and we won't have to really worry about any problems. So let's minimize this, go assign our panel, our flash image. So take the hearts here, and actually I think what I'll do is go into prefab edit mode. We'll assign the hearts in prefab mode, so that way it gets assigned on both of our objects. We'll go back out of the player panel, hit save, and now both of our player panels should have their own hearts object selected. And then we'll press play. Let's run over there, take some damage, and see if we get a nice little flash. Oh, I should have changed the color of that hearts panel on player 2, though. I don't think I did that. So run over here, boing, take damage, and you can see got this nice flash appearing. I can definitely tell that I took some damage, and I'm probably dying. So let's stop playing, go into our plastic window, and say that we added a flash coroutine to the take damage interface. Well, it's really to the take damage user interface. I don't know if I like that commit message, but it's good enough that I understand what it means. Oh, we need to save our scene. Let's save the level. We didn't really need to save our scene because it's prefab in there, but I wanted to save it anyway because it was starred, and then we'll check in the changes. All right, so hopefully you're starting to understand how to use these coroutines, by the way, and you can experiment with them a little bit on your own. Maybe do some other flashing, some other things. You could flash the heart that's showing up there, or whatever it is that you want. Make a slightly different interface for it. But I think that hopefully you're starting to see some of the benefits of events so that you can get notified when something happens and do something when something happens. And it doesn't have to be just UI stuff. We're going to be using events for a lot of other things in the near future.